This is Feminist Wellness, and I'm your host, nurse practitioner, functional medicine expert, and life coach, Victoria Albina. I'll show you how to get unstuck, drop the anxiety, perfectionism, and codependency so you can live from your beautiful heart. Welcome, my love. Let's get started. Hello, hello, my love. I hope this finds you doing so well. This week, I am beyond delighted to share a conversation I had with the remarkable and amazing Kylie McBeath on her podcast, Zora Health. We dove deep into a topic close to both of our hearts, how to unhook from codependent thinking. And we had so much fun while we talked about some seriously serious topics. Kylie is a gem, and our mutual passion for helping humans improve their wellness on all planes, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, energetic, really shines through. I'm so grateful for the opportunity and privilege to have these conversations, and it's so sweet to be able to share them here with you all. I also want to be sure that you know about the free meditation suite I offer as a wee gift for perfect you, and it's just a few clicks away. If you head over to victoriaalbina.com, you can find those meditations right there on the homepage for you, and they will download right into your email inbox. I also want to let you know that I'm setting the dates for the next cohort of my 6-month mind-body program, Anchored, Overcoming Codependency. This science and woo-based program dives into the cognitive behavioral thought work protocol I teach, as well as the somatic or bodily practices that have changed my life and my clients' lives in so many ways. As a functional medicine trained nurse practitioner and life coach, and having been sick for casually the first 30 years of my life, which I also get into with Kylie, I know how vital the mind-body connection is to our growth, our healing, our sense of self, and for being able to really have our own backs, to feel deeply and powerfully embodied. And that's what you'll learn when you join us for Anchored. So you can learn more at victoriaalbina.com/anchored and can apply now for the next group. Or if you're ready to join us, you can join us today. We already have, I think it's 3 people in the next group without a start date. So if you've been hearing about it and thinking about it, now is the time to get anchored in you, to shift out of those perfectionist, codependent, people-pleasing thought habits, to stop fantasizing about how great your life will be when other people change, to start feeling your emotions in your body instead of living from the neck up, to give yourself the gift of having a whole set of tools in your toolbox, both the cognitive ones to help you think about situations differently, to get neutral, to recognize the thoughts that are creating your feelings so you can start to identify, is this really my thought, or is this just how I learned to think, how I was socialized and conditioned in the patriarchy, in my cultures, in my family of origin to think, or is this really how I think about me? And I have found in my own life it's really challenging. It's been really challenging in the past to know that difference without having a protocol, an algorithm. I mean, we're nerds, right, my nerds? I love to have, an algorithm that helps me to figure out what's mine, what's not mine, what thoughts do I want to keep, what thoughts do I want to shift out of. And that's also where the somatic practices come in, because when a thought is just such a profound part of your identity, your habitual story about yourself and the world, oftentimes the brain will really resist shifting, which of course it does. Like, that makes so much sense. And that's when we can bring the somatics in. We can get in touch with our bodies and can start to move the energy within our bodies so that we can open up more space cognitively, mentally, to be able to connect in with a new thought. It's a truly remarkable program, but a remarkable process that has been just so life-changing. And I'll be sharing some testimonials and some experiences and stories from folks who've been in Anchored with me coming soon on my Instagram over at Victoria Albina Wellness. So make sure you check that out. And if you're ready to start moving towards your dreams in a real way, to really have your own back, now's the time, my beauty. Okay, my love, without further ado, because I could talk on and on about how much I love somatics and cognitive work and moving out of our codependent thinking. I present to you my conversation with the outstandingly brilliant and phenomenal Kylie McBeath. It's going to be a good one.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to drop into this conversation with Victoria Albina. Did I get that correct?
Sure did.
Should have asked on that last name. I was like, that's a really beautiful one, but don't F it up, Kai. Don't F it up. So I'm glad my pronunciation skills were working in my favor today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
So you know the drill.
I sure do.
You know the podcast drill. You know what's up.
I do.
All right. So many questions, but a little bit about how you got into the world of wellness. Like what catalyzed your path?
Yeah. So it started on a cloudy Wednesday in 1979.
Perfect.
Okay, great. This is a 400-hour episode, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so my story is one of many of us in the health and wellness world. I was sick as a friggin' dog from infancy until I took my health into my own hands. I had wicked bad IBS, which to translate for West Coast listeners is hella bad IBS. You just want to be respectful, okay?
Yeah, we got a lot of West Coast in here. So.
Well, you don't want them to be sitting there going, what is wicked? It's hella. Same thing. So, Kylie, I was so sick for so long. Really bad digestive issues, which understanding the microbiome, when your tummy's upset, your mind will follow. So I had really intermittent chronic depression, anxiety, a lot of experiences of stress, overwhelm, this really intense feeling like I was stuck in life and there was no way out. There was no way forward. And so that early suffering, that early stress, early trauma led me to a life in healthcare and wellness and seeking to heal myself and heal others at the same time. Through that process, I got into the world of holistic medicine, which had always been sort of my bent on life, and studied and practiced functional medicine. I had a private practice in occupied Lenape territory in New York City. And through that practice, came to understand that so often what's presenting as a physiologic issue is just the symptomology showing us that there's something way deeper down inside. Right? That our digestion slows down when we are putting others ahead of ourselves, when we are talking trash to ourselves, when we're unkind to ourselves, when we're people pleasing, being perfectionists, rolling around in codependent thinking. And so for me, the final frontier of healing my body was to heal my mind and then to heal that link between the two, that true mind-body connection. And so that's what I do now, is offer that kind of support to show other humans. And I like working with humans socialized as women, humans who are women now, whatever that means, however you define that for yourself, because that's my experience, right? And I love helping women to see how their habitual survival patterns from childhood have kept them surviving, which is beautiful, but now keep us feeling stuck.
Ooh, hands up if you resonate with that at all.
Just casual though, right?
Yeah,
it's a casual topic, just casual topics here. Your show's pretty casual, so
your show's basic, so you should be able to.
I don't listen to your show and cry often. Whatever, get out of here. Okay, wait, I totally do.
Thank you for sharing. I resonate deeply with the being sick and always thinking, if something's wrong with you, it's your fault.
Yep. It's all in your head.
It's all in your head.
Right.
You know, like,
right.
You should change. You should do this. You should buy this. You should. It's like,
oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So I love what you said there around actually stepping into self-ownership around your health journey and like taking health into your own hands and self-governance around, okay, nobody else is giving me answers that are supporting me and actually feeling better.
Yep.
So I better do this myself.
Yeah. Well, it's stepping into that get to, right?
Yeah.
So I lived from so many has to's for so long. I have to be a good girl. I have to get these grades. I have to perform this way. I have to try to fit in. I don't fit in. I have to fix my gut. I am broken. I have to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
And those have to's were driving that internal story that I'm broken and need fixing. And that's just serious BS. Right. And I get to now step into that choice and that desire and that want to live with intention and live with joy.
So deserving of that.
Yeah.
Reminds me of this story that I heard through one of my mentors who's in a lot of movement spaces about the fish in the lake analogy. Have you heard this one?
Oh, yes. But do share it. It's a good one.
Yeah. It's like we're all swimming around in this lake, and if there are a few fish floating dead on top, then we're like, okay, what's wrong with the fish?
Right.
Like, okay, we'll take a look, we'll examine the fish. But if all of the fish are floating belly up, I love your visuals. I wish everyone could see Victoria's faces as I'm telling this. It's so good. Then it's time to look at the lake. But in our culture, we're still focused on the fish. Fish
Well,
fixing.
yeah.
Instead
Fish
of actually
fixing.
looking at the water we're swimming in, which is so flippin' poisonous.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, as a holistic nurse practitioner studying in functional nutrition and medicine, it's like, whoa, how did we get so far and so disconnected from all the things that do make us well? And the gut's a loud one when it comes to like, hey, you better listen.
Sure is.
Because it's so uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was bloated for like 30 years.
The worst.
Oh my God. And it, because of the way our viscera works, when you're bloated, you feel irritable. I mean, because it's sending you into that sympathetic activation. It's telling you something's not right here. And so then I was irritable. So then I'd pick fights with the people I loved. And then that would reify that story that I was less than, that I was a fuck up, that everything about me was wrong, which would lead me to be more irritable, which would lead me to pick fights and then beat myself up for it. And then, of course, that would slow down the migrating motor complex that moves the small intestine. So, of course, the bacteria build up, more bloating, rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat.
Mm-hmm.
I was diagnosed with SIBO 2.5, 3 years ago. And the migrating motor complex, and they were talking about it being
slow.
The body attacks itself.
Oh, like autoimmune?
Yeah, there we go. I was reading an article and it's like autoimmune, and it's like, well, no, there's other issues there. And I remember going to an acupuncturist, and she was like, so the small intestine has to do with like family system.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, geez. No, I will not look at this. No,
anything but that.
Yeah, exactly. So what supported you in really, like, obviously all of the flags are there. Like, something's wrong. I need to do something. Like, where did you go next? Because it sounds like this is not an overnight process, clearly.
It's this funny thing. And I want to be sort of thoughtful in how I say this, but I also just want to be frank because it is my way. I got tired of my own BS, right? Like, I got tired of picking the fights with myself and then looking for someone to validate it. I got tired of my own perfectionism. I got tired of people pleasing. And I got tired of being really bloated. And my inner nerd was like, there must be a way to science this. So I did, right? I started learning. And I was really lucky in that I found a really, really, really good functional medicine clinician who did the right test, found the bugs, helped me to murder the bugs. But again, like, that was only half the battle, right? And P.S., it's whatever, but it's so funny how quickly militarized language comes out of our mouth. I just heard myself say battle and was like, socialization, you jerk. But it was half of the journey was the physiology.
Yeah, so important, that foundational layer to like actually support the body.
Yeah. Right. And I needed to do all of that, basic physiology, getting the pipes flowing again, getting my gut moving in the right way. And you've had SIBO, right? It's such a bear. But then I think part of it was like, diagnoses are a fascinating double-edged sword because it can both be this like, I'll speak for myself. I have both used it as a crutch to not do my own work. Oh, I'm sick. Oh, I'm out of spoons. Oh. And I'm only talking about myself. I'm not casting dispersions on anyone in this world. I did that. And that was a survival mechanism, and it served its good, and it was adaptive at the time. And then I hit a point where it was maladaptive. It didn't serve me any longer to sort of rest on that diagnosis as an excuse, which is what I was doing.
Mm.
And a diagnosis, a piece of paper that said, you have blastocystis hominis in your large intestine, right? And you have Methanobrevibacter smithii in your small intestine, right? These words help me to be like, oh, it's not just me, right? Like I'm not making it up.
Right.
Because there was some part of me that was like, oh, Vic, are you just being whiny? Right? Like you're so smart and you're so strong. Like I'm built like a wombat. I'm short and like thick. You're a strong little animal. Can't you just push through this one? But yeah, those are some fierce beasts to have growing in your tummers, you know?
Oh, yeah. And they knock you out.
Oh, they sure do.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got sick of being knocked out.
Yeah, for sure. I find that for me in my journey with SIBO and IBS and all of the digestive, you name it, I had it situation.
Now you're bragging.
Yeah. Hey, now not all of them, thank God. No, it's actually what was interesting is what you're saying here, and why I love the lens in which you're presenting this material is it's so multidimensional and layered. You're like bringing in that this is potentially a very young part,
right,
of who we are that's grasping and staying in situations
or
identities,
yes,
or relationships or patterns that are keeping us stuck or sick, if you will,
and stagnant, right? Because SIBO, so many gut disorders, it's about stagnancy throughout our digestion. And I see that same stagnancy mirrored in our mental wellness. Yeah. Right? In the stories we repeat and repeat, oh, that story hurts. Let me tell it again. Let me tell it again. Let me tell it again, because it's the only story I know. Right. And because I haven't been taught, because our educational system, like how many types of triangle can you name? I can name them all. But I never learned to recognize how my thoughts create my feelings. I never learned that I could step in to say, this feels like crap. And I am co-creating it with my socialization, my conditioning. And I'm going to hit the stop button here. I'm going to hit pause. And I'm going to hit that stop and reset and pick a new thought about this completely neutral circumstance in life. Right. So let's stay with this example of digestive concerns, right? Yeah. So it's one thing to have the digestive upset, the digestive concerns, and it's another thing to tell the story. This is terrible. This is horrible. This is the worst. I'm so worried. That fixes nothing. And because it sends you into that sympathetic overdrive, right, where your body is flooded with adrenaline, norepinephrine, and cortisol, it creates this really potentially devastating feedback loop with your adrenals that keeps you jacked up on your own story and your own neurochemistry. And that slows your migrating motor complex. So I'm not saying that I wasn't sick as a dog and that I'm not saying it was great. I'm not ever in the like positive vibes only, like every suffering is the teacher. Yeah. But like also every suffering is potentially a teacher if you want it to be. And I think that part's so important, right?
I'm just really stuck on the stagnancy piece. I'm
like, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, but it's so comfortable there. Like, why don't you just move in that space? You know? And so then it comes back to like, okay, what gets in the way of really pushing through some of these blockages? Or maybe that's the incorrect word. I think like some of these patterns that we can't see out of because it's the only one we've ever been living inside of.
The water we're swimming in.
The water we're swimming in.
Yeah. Well, I think several things happen. Codependency, people-pleasing often come with perfectionism. It is a stress response, a trauma response, a wildly appropriate response to what so many of us went through in childhood, right? Because if you look perfect on the outside, well, then when the lions come to attack the village, the adults are going to grab you. You're the perfect child, right? Why would they not save you from the lions? You're no trouble. You do all these chores. You're so helpful around the hut, right? Like, it's genius. And It keeps us from seeing, frankly, reality. Perfectionist thinking keeps us believing we are the sum of our production, A, number one. B, number two, if you're not producing, you're failing. And that's a very bad, dangerous thing, which it was in cave human times, and it likely was in your childhood. So we honor that. C, number three, it is not okay to ask for help, to be needy, to have wants, to have needs, to need support. Because D, number four, you're supposed to be able to do every fucking thing on earth by yourself perfectly the first time, even though it is the first time. And you're not supposed to talk about what you accomplished, because being celebrated means that eyes are on you. And attention is so dangerous, so scary. Because if they're looking at you, they're going to see the flaw. They're going to recognize you're worthless. And then the lions come and they're like, why don't you just stay behind? Just a little tribute here for the lions. Then they won't chase us. Okay, bye. Right?
I mean, you're just summing up my whole life story. So it's cute, but not of like, wow, this perfectionism piece has been one that I had to blow my actual world up in order to climb out of that perfection, like identity of like, I need to be perfect. So when we suppress all of the other parts of ourselves that are very human, very real, very acceptable and enough and worthy, because we've been conditioned in our environments culturally and in our potentially in our family systems that we have to repress vital parts of who we are. I'm telling you what, those parts without attention over time take right over.
Oh, yeah.
It's not coming through the body. It's coming through some other.
Oh, but I do. Yeah. I mean, it's like if you've ever met a toddler, they're like, excuse me. And you're like, you ignore them, right? So what are they? Excuse me. And they're like, excuse me. Right? They're just going to get louder and louder and louder. So too with our, listen to me.
Yeah.
So what for me was like a little indigestion turned into like massive GI symptoms because I didn't have the tools and it didn't feel safe to pay attention to myself. It didn't feel safe. Yeah. I needed to keep my eyes out on the dangerous world.
Right.
Cool.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of staying in that hypervigilance, like constantly scanning to manage the external environment to make sure that you are safe.
Right, which makes you believe that you have some kind of control over other people, places, and things.
But don't we?
Oh, golly. If only.
Right.
Because I have some ideas about how we should run this everything.
Are you running next? I hope so. Victoria 2024.
Oh my goodness. No, I'm going to stay in my little life coaching lane. I like it over here. Yeah. But thanks.
Our loss.
Cutie.
This work specifically, we're talking about for me, and I'd be curious about your unhooking from it all and kind of getting the digestive system moving and healing your own nervous system, was finding a secure attachment through other. So that my nervous system could even feel what it felt like to be in relationship with a secure resource nervous system. Didn't even know what that meant. Like anytime anybody was calm or something, like I'd go into full activation because I'm like, am I missing something?
Oh, yeah.
Didn't feel safe.
No.
So for me, it was somatic experiencing therapy. And I'm curious for you, because I see breath work as a modality that you so beautifully offer this world, which thank you for that. I love breath work. What was your doorway into looking at some of these core patterns and nervous system responses?
Yeah. Honestly, it was friends.
Great.
It was getting to San Francisco in my late 20s to nurse practitioner school at the University of California, San Francisco. And for the first time that I recognized, because I don't want to say the first time in my life, but the first time I recognized, I could really see the people in front of me and the work that they were doing. And, San Francisco a decade ago was a different animal than what it is now. And I was surrounded by people who were doing their work, who were, going to the redwoods and meditating and journeying and doing yoga and breath work and really tapping in, right? And really checking in. And I had just been in a relationship with I used to date small, angry alcoholics. It was like kind of my thing. And I had just been in one of those. And yeah, it was just such a stark contrast to what I had been recently experiencing that it blew my world apart to see folks talking, like really talking about their feelings. And maybe it was the shift, I'd spent most of my life in the puritanical New England, then this shift to like a California way of thinking and people just being like really open about what was going on for them. So what I'm pointing to is co-regulating, right? People put out their hand and offered to co-regulate with me. And that was mind blowing, earth shaking, which you shouldn't say about California, but it was. And offered me the chance to take their hand and follow them to do really weird stuff that helped me to open my eyes and my mind and connect with different ways of being than what I had known in my childhood, in my immigrant family, I went to weirdo college. I went to Oberlin, but I think I just wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
But it was all priming me. It was like priming the pump, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was loving, kind people. I talk a lot about how when we heal ourselves, we help heal the world. It's how I end every episode of the Feminist Wellness podcast. And I choose to say that every week because it was these friends, these beautiful people who are doing all of this deep work on themselves, modeling that as a possibility. The kind of work they were doing on self and in community for the collective, in collective, was beyond my wildest imagination. So their healing work opened the door for me and is what led me to be here talking with you a decade later, running a 6-month program to help folks to overcome codependency. It was a wild gift. Oh yeah, we can talk about my program. Oh my God, it's so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, well, now that you're here, and I've heard this word come out, so I feel like we're supposed to talk about it.
Oh.
How are you defining codependency?
Well, Kylie, thanks for asking.
Well, there's so much on this topic. So I'm just like, everybody might have a little flair of their own, but I'm curious.
Oh, totally.
Experience, because I love the way you express and define. So
thank you. So I see codependency, or actually I really like to talk about it as codependent thinking, because I truly believe that it's a set of thought habits, right? It's not that someone is codependent. Because again, going back to the labels, I think it can end up being really limiting, right? Like when folks are like, oh, I'm just type A. And I'm like, really? Or are you anxious and traumatized? Right?
It's underneath that.
Right. Yeah. You can chill out. Like we can teach you how. But so codependent thinking, for me, in my own lived experience, is about putting other people's wants, needs, and emotional state above your own. And believing that your emotional state is profoundly dependent on the emotional state of the people around you. And that's not just like partnership, family, friends. It can be people on the bus, right? Like, oh, he's not okay. I need to get involved. I need to make sure that stranger on the bus is okay. Not in like a beautiful humanitarian way, but really in a like my energy, my emotional wellness, my state of being depends on my making sure that everyone else is okay. It's pretty fucking exhausting. It really is an awful lot. Yeah. It's an awful lot
to carry.
Right? And it makes us feel like we're being so altruistic, right? And like we're really taking care of the community, but it is as at its core and truly very selfish while actually not attending to yourself. Yeah. Right? It's manipulative in that way. It is wildly not conscious. Right. I don't think anyone's like, okay, I'm going to do this nice thing for him. And then he's going to think well of me. And that will help me because I think poorly about me. And then that will validate my sense of self. Like no one's out here doing that. It's just how we learn to survive. And I think that part's super important. Like once again, these patterns, these habits, these ways of thinking and being and acting in the world, come from childhood, adolescent, in our 20s, but they are survival habits.
Yeah.
And so in my world, in the coaching work I do, we honor them. We celebrate them.
Beautiful.
Right? Yeah.
When shame is removed out of the
Yeah.
classroom and we're kind of just like, okay, let's just start naming this and validating as it is. And I love that in your containers, you're creating a lot of safety around this process of unhooking from these codependent thought patterns.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to, right? Because they're born of feeling unsafe. They're born of this fear that we are unworthy and we need to chronically, habitually, constantly prove our worth to the world, but really to ourselves, because in this core place, we don't believe it. And so without an active, conscious attention to psychological and physiologic safety, I don't think this work can proceed in any sort of real way without it being a bunch of like emotional and spiritual bypassing BS.
Totally agree with you. I'm so happy to hear you say that. I mean, a meme isn't going to solve this. To really unhook and create internal sense of safety or felt sense of safety, that takes not only work, but it takes a community, co-regulation, like you previously mentioned. It's like imperative.
Yeah. And one of the things that happens in codependent thinking is that we believe that we are an island and we need to do everything alone. And so it comes with all this isolation, which once again makes sense because if anyone sees your weakness, they will leave you to die cold and alone on the mountaintop.
Right.
Right. So we shield ourselves. We shield ourselves from feeling our pain, our hurt, our sorrow, and we push it away to not let anyone else see it, lest they think less of us and abandon us. Going back to your question about attachment, right? And that query of what is that link towards healing, that sort of first hook on the ladder. And I think you nailed it, right? Safe, secure attachment with another loving person, place, thing, animal, tree, spirit, concept, a resource.
Yeah, a resource for sure. So when you're walking people in your program back to this, I don't know, would you say interdependency? Like the ability to be both in a relationship, not at the cost of self, but having an identity of who you are, what your desires are, what your needs are, your wants, all of that. Like, what does your pathway look like? Just for the listeners who are like, I want, I need.
You can have more. Yeah, interdependence is always my jam. I think in the US, we are taught this like rugged individualism, this like Horatio Alger's pull yourself up by the bootstraps kind of total BS. And it's such garbage, right? We are pack animals. We need each other as mammals, like because science, we need each other. And so we start by building this safe container and building this safer community, right? It's like safe sex that way. It's only safer. We do our frickin' best. And so we build this safer community built on love, mutual respect, and a promise to each stay in our own lane, which is so challenging, but not to shit on each other, not to tell each other what to do. And honestly, it's fascinating. Each step of setting up this community, each time I run the program, feels like, okay, if that's all you got for 6 months, that's enough. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Like experiencing a Slack community where people aren't shitting on each other. Like, oh, okay, what? Well, that's life-changing.
Totally.
So we do really focus on this concept of interdependence, in which if we take a dyad, right? If we take like a couple, each partner in that couple, the goal is independent, autonomous, takes care of their own needs, and then also asks for their needs to be met by the other with a true, deep, profound understanding and belief that that person will take care of their own needs. That person is independent, autonomous, self-loving being taking care of their own needs. And so if you say, hey, babe, can you listen to this story? Hey, babe, can you support me around this? Can you take the garbage out? Right? Can you be by my side? Let's create mutuality from being two autonomous beings, right? Versus being two enmeshed beings. And so I can trust that you are taking care of you enough that I can ask you to take care of me without the stories of guilt, shame. Oh, I'm a burden. Oh, she's going to say yes because she feels bad. Oh, he's going to get angry if I ask. Oh, they aren't going to like it that I want them to do this. We can drop all that BS, all that garbage, right? Because we trust each other's wholeness and autonomy. Mm-hmm. And so the work in this program is to build that within ourselves, to see it in the collective that we build for these 6 months, and then to build those bedrock foundational skills, right? How do we do direct communication? I didn't know for like 30 years. How do we ask for what we need? Well, shit, I didn't know what I needed.
Totally.
Great.
Yeah.
So what is intuition? How do I tap into it? How do I know? What does the body know?
Right.
So we do a lot of somatics and we do cognitive work because it's important to work both vagus nerve up, body up, and cognition, vagus nerve down into the body. 20% of our thoughts are created by our feelings. Let's attend to that 20% as best we can. So I teach a protocol called the Thought Work Protocol. It's based in cognitive behavioral theory, positive psychology, and it's a way to look at life and recognize that things are not, circumstances in life are not inherently good or bad. There is a caveat until we put human thought on it. And it's not until you say this is good or this is bad that you have that felt experience, that emotional experience of it being exhausting, terrible, frustrating, disappointing, or amazing, incredible, glorious, delightful. Without that initial cognition, it is neither. It is simply a neutral experience. Mm-hmm. The caveat here is discrimination, prejudice, racism, right? This is not said enough in the coaching world. Those things are not neutral to me. They are not things that I see as neutral circumstances. They are problems. They must be dealt with. Right. I'm not coaching around how they are okay because they're just not in my world. And if someone wants that kind of coaching, there's plenty of it available, but not from me. I'm not your gal.
I'm not your gal.
Not your gal. No, I know you're not. No, I know.
Well, that sounds like an incredible way to support people in coming back into the container of themselves.
Yeah.
Giving them the tools and the resources to be able to even understand what's happening in the internal world. That's a vulnerable journey in and of itself.
Sure is.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, I've never met this person because I've been so focused on everybody else and being who culture, family wanted me to be, you know? That it's like, how can I be 30 years old and not know who I am? That's such a vulnerable point in time to be like.
For sure. Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah. And what the thought work helps us to see is within that, right? Which of your habitual, everyday, all the time thoughts were simply taught to you, like put on a flashcard and handed to you, right? And we believe our own thoughts because most of us were never taught that we had any other option. And we believe that our beliefs are real, well, because we believe them. But it's simply, right, neuroplasticity. We've thought them again and again and again. And there's so many things in this life that we do label good or bad without pausing, right? So like death, is that good or bad, Kylie?
I mean, I'm neutral on death. I actually, death is probably one of the rabbit holes that I picked a lot of my time thinking about. Because I think our culture, we need to get better acquainted with death.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In a big way.
Oh, for sure.
A lot of fear of death and resistance to death. And I think it keeps us from living.
Could not agree more. Well, the example I was going towards, if I may.
Yeah.
So if we were to go to like any old mall in anywhere USA and say, is death bad? I think like 9.9 out of 10 people would be like, but of course.
Totally.
Right. And in my life, death meant I lost people and bunnies I loved. Right. Like death was a bad thing. And then I got offered the opportunity to work hospice. And let me tell you, my thoughts on death changed real quick.
Wow.
You know, I was like, oh, John in 4. God, I hope he dies tonight. He's suffering bad.
Yeah.
Right?
really shifts when you're in that type of environment.
Yeah. And we can bring that framework to anything.
Yeah.
Right? We can recognize I only think this is bad because I've always only thought it was bad.
Yeah. Talk about self-awareness. Talk about having enough capacity to sit and examine, like what types of judgments am I placing on this or that? I mean, neutrality is such a beautiful place to be.
Yeah. Well, it's so empowering.
It's so liberating.
So liberating. Yeah, because you get yourself to neutral and then you can build the skill and the muscle of trusting yourself to choose a path from neutral.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
It's the name of our band.
I can't wait.
Oh my God, it's going to be so good. Totally. I play 0 instruments. It's going to be amazing.
Same. We are.
Right? This is the best band ever. Right. But choosing our path from neutral, because when you're choosing from like knee-jerk, habitual, unintentional, what are you actually choosing? Like, let's look at the word choice there. Are you making a choice?
Not in my eyes.
Nor in mine.
Yeah, choice is such an interesting topic of conversation, especially when we haven't necessarily been given the tools of understanding around how thoughts are formed and beliefs are formed and neuroplasticity and and how we even learn and are socialized and conditioning. It's like, where was that in our school?
Yeah, I don't know.
I was so angry when I figured that out, that I had like 95% of my operating system was operating out of unconscious. I was like, I'm sorry. Don't you think you should tell somebody that? Hey, you're not really in control here. All the stuff that you stuffed down and hidden away in your body and in your unconscious mind is actually. So you better slow down.
Yeah, that should be part of kindergarten, right?
For real. Yeah.
But no, but like actually for real.
Yeah.
Wash your hands. Don't hit people without consent. Naps are important. You are operating on a conditioned belief system.
I feel like we're in such a time right now, Victoria, and I'd be curious about your perspective here. I feel like we are finally stepping into emotional maturity. Like we're growing out of childhood adaptive strategies. Now, like initiating us through adolescence and into adulthood.
What's the we there?
Well, I'm projecting onto populations, but I think that we've been emotionally and psychologically operating from very young parts of ourselves because we've been operating out of what feels like a lot of self-preservation and survival energy. And it's like, how can we even operate with more agency if we can't even regulate our own nervous systems and have the capacity to think?
I mean, I couldn't agree more. Is the we there like America?
I mean, yeah, that feels accurate.
Yeah.
Sure.
The US of America as a South American. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where we're going, but I know some of the things we need, which, yes, is a collective lesson on nervous system regulation, right? I mean, on so many levels, folks are so dysregulated. I mean, fascism thrives in a population that is dysregulated, right?
Right.
Because one is knee-jerk, because that's what the system is capable of and requires. So that makes sense. A population that is dysregulated is also much easier to control than one that is collectively co-regulated, right? So I hear you on that one for sure, right?
Took you down a different alley. Had to. I was like,
I mean, hey, I'll go.
We're here. We're in interesting times. So
we are. I'm down for a lot of dark alleys. Let's hold hands though, because we're small. One of the things that's been actually in my actual literal dreams frequently in the last month or so has been about how we are our own medicine, right? Like the medicine you seek, the medicine I sought for years at 1,000 ports of call, right? At different functional medicine docs, at naturopaths, at the acupuncturist, at the massagist, at the ayahuasca, at the new date, at the like, let's get drunk, at the let's get sober, at the like, on and on and on. All of that was helpful in its ways, except for the let's get drunk was helpful in its way at the time. Woo! Yeah, what all roads led back to Rome. You know what I mean? Like it all kept back to my insistence. And this is this is the patriarchy in motion. Some knower outside of me knew what I needed. I just had to find the right knower, right? The right guru, the right white coat, the right whatever to tell me how to heal. And what I got to learn along the way over the last 41 years is that it was all within me. It was all within my nervous system, my body, my ancestral wisdom.
Yeah.
And that I am the plants and they are me. I am you and you are me. Not in some creepy whitewashing, we are all one kind of apolitical BS way, but in a cellular way that we need each other. I guess I'm coming back to interdependence, aren't I? Yeah. That I got to learn how to stand in my own autonomy on my own 2 feet to learn what I want, what I need, when I want it. You can't provide it? Great. I can provide it for myself and I can co-regulate with someone who can. I can co-regulate with the stars and the moon and the sky and the trees and the dog. To the cat, I am allergic. But I can stand on my own 2 feet, which scared the effing F out of me because I didn't believe it. Yeah. I didn't know it to be true. Or possible, certainly unlikely, statistically unlikely for sure.
And here you are.
Here I am. It's been quite a journey these last 41 years, let me tell you what.
I bet.
Yeah.
I hope you're writing a book. I don't know your journey, but I'm like, I want to know. Oh, you are? Amazing.
I am. Secret, darn. Yeah, I am. I'm really excited about it. It's going to take a hot minute, but yeah.
Yeah. Assimilation takes time.
Mittens, please. De-assimilating has taken many a year too. Let me tell you what. Yeah, letting that freak flag fly has taken quite a minute, but here we are, being weird.
Yeah, I appreciate how you show up in your being, in your presence, in your essence, giving us all permission to be who we are.
What is it, Janis Joplin quote? Be yourself, everyone else is taken. Lord only knows if she actually said that. I haven't checked for video footage, but yeah, I spent so long trying to be everyone else. It just never worked out.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good either in the body. Being invisible is not fun. All right, Victoria. I've loved this.
This has been such a delight. You are so fantastic.
You are so fun. You're like a beam of joy.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome. And for those who want more of this goodness that you're offering on this planet, where do they find you?
Yeah. So on the Instagram at Victoria Albina Wellness. My website is victoriaalbina.com. If you head on over to the homepage, there's a place right there on the front of the page where you can put your name and your email in, and you can get a suite of meditations delivered right to your email inbox with just a few clicks. Those are free because I love you and I want you to support you in attending to your beautiful self, should you so choose. My 6-month masterclass is called The Feminist Wellness Guide to Overcoming Codependency. You can learn more at victoriaalbina.com/masterclass. Try to keep those URLs simple or I will totally forget them. So that's /masterclass. Oh, my podcast is called Feminist Wellness. It's on all the things, the Apple, the Stitcher, the Spotify, blah, blah, blah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. And I want to remind your listeners, if you're enjoying this show, please do subscribe, rate, and review, particularly on Apple Podcasts. This is such a great show. I love listening to it. First-time caller, long-time listener. It's a great show. And when you subscribe, you really, really, really support Kylie in getting her amazing workout to the world. So go do it.
Thanks, Victoria.
If you've been enjoying the show and learning a ton, it's time to apply it with my expert guidance so you can live life with intention without the anxiety, overwhelm, and resentment so you can get unstuck. You're not going to want to miss the opportunity to join my exclusive, intimate group coaching program. So head on over to victoriaalbina.com/masterclass to grab your seat now. See you there. It's going to be a good one.